Hi everyone, in this lesson we are going to talk about the tuple type. As we dive deeper and deeper into TypeScript types, there are going to be types that if you're strictly coming from the world of JavaScript, you may not have heard of them. And these types do not actually exist in JavaScript. And we're going to take a look at how the TypeScript compiler handles these types, how it compiles them to vanilla JavaScript. A tuple type is a special TypeScript data type that does not exist in JavaScript. A tuple is basically, in simple terms, it is an array of a fixed number of items and their respective types. Or in more like simple terms, like in simpler terms, it is an array of fixed length and type. That's what a tuple is. Now, there is a specific use case for tuples because they are arrays, but their length has to be fixed. So the use case is whenever you know how many items, like exactly how many items your array is going to hold, that is a use case for a tuple or a tuple, however you want to call it. Now, this is when you have a specific shape of an array in mind, and you just want that kind of data, and you want the user to input that kind of data as well. So that's when you use a tuple type. But if you want to be more flexible and more general in your data type, in your array, then you're going to avoid tuple type and you're just going to use the like the plain old array type. So let's dive into an example for the tuple type. Let's say I have a variable called enrolled course. I am going to leave this here and I'm going to jump here. And let's say in here, I want to create an array, but I want this array to have exactly 2 items. So the first item is going to be the code for that specific course. So it could be 101, 202, whatever. And the second member or the second item within this array, I want it to be the name of the student. It could be a full name. It could be like just a first name. I'm just going to say John Doe. Now, we can see that there is a type error there because we have type annotated to an empty array, and an empty array is like it does look like a literal type. So the only type it can accept is an empty array. But we are going to change that, convert it into a tuple type. Now, how are we going to do that? Since we're using tuples, it means that we know exactly how our data is going to look like. We know that we want a number and a string. And that's what we're going to tell TypeScript. So I'm telling TypeScript, I want a number and I want a string. Now, how am I going to do that? Now, if I put it outside the array, that would be a regular array, but I'm going to put it inside the array. And I'm going to say, okay, the first value, this is what I meant by being really exact with what you want to do when it comes to tuples. Otherwise, don't use them. So I want the first item of the array to be a number, and I want the second item to be a string. And that's it. So this is an array of a fixed length, which means I have in mind just 2 variables, 2 values, which means that the length is 2, and fixed type. So for the first one, I want a number, and for the second value, I want a string. Now, as soon as I hit save, we're going to see the JavaScript interpretation of that. And in JavaScript, we don't have tuples. That's why this is compiled away, and it does look like a regular array. And you know what? It is a regular array. It is not a tuple because tuples do not exist in JavaScript. Now, as far as JavaScript is concerned, this is just another array that I've created. Enrolled, let me add another L. But as far as TypeScript is concerned, this is a tuple. Now, when it comes to tuples, since tuples, their job is to provide a little bit rigidness to our types, you're gonna be able to do some stuff and you're not gonna be able to do other stuff. For example, we can, after the tuple is created, we can change the value of that of the array within that array. We can change any value that we want. For example, if this was JavaScript, how would we grab, for example, the first value or the first item of this array? I could do a 0, since arrays are zero based, their index is 0 based, and I could change that to, let's say, 102. That is allowed. And if we take a look at in JavaScript, it has printed that out, which means this is allowed. But before but, let's take a look at changing the second item, which is John Doe. Let's change it to Jane Doe. And we're able to do that as well. What I'm going to do before moving forward, I would like to just log it to the console and see how it's going to look. And we can see that in JavaScript, it's just an array. The prototype is an array, and it is 102 Jane Doe. So you can change the value, but you cannot change the type. If you do that, there's going to be like errors. So if I go ahead and if I say enrolled course 1, and if I, for example, if I add in here a number 2, 3, it's not going to be possible because it says type number is not assignable type string. So in this scenario, I'll end up with a type error. So with this, our lecture comes to an end, and see you in the next one.